When you think of Zelda, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? The dungeons? Maybe the endless cast of amazing characters? The grand fantasy stories? Those are all completely understandable, but for me it's the entire experience. Back when the original Zelda came out, it wasn't about any of those things. There was no epic story that spanned countless hours of memorable characters, and the dungeon design was pretty forgettable if I'm being honest. No, the first game was all about the sense of exploration and finding things for yourself. Having a personal experience that you can call your own. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the very beginning. I can't even imagine turning this game on for the first time and seeing this absolute beauty of a title screen. The music, the background, it's all so full of wonder and mystery. The excitement that people must have felt for this new kind of experience, I can't even imagine. Even today, as someone who's played this game a million times and can do almost anything without a guide, this gets me excited every time. I consider it to be one of those images that precede legendary events. And if you manage to wait long enough, you'll even get a backstory and list of items from the game, adding even more excitement. You want to find those items, you want to see what they do, and you want to stop Ganon. Anyway, I could go on and on and on and on and on forever about this title screen, but let's move on before things get out of hand and I end up drooling on the floor. Let's press start to begin our adventure. I know. But the screen is just as important as the title screen. No other game at the time, to my knowledge, had a save feature. This was very revolutionary for its time and needs to be appreciated. Now, you don't have to keep the NES on for hours or remember some long-ass weird password. It shows your progress and you can even name your character. Like, how cool is that? This was your adventure. It's the link between you and the game. That's why the hero's canonical name is Link. You're experiencing the game through him, the way you want to. Man, imagine there being a Zelda game with only one save file. That's not even possible, right? That was why this feature was so great. Anyway, let's name our hero and start our adventure for real. There's this feeling of eagerness that I get whenever I start up this game on a new file. You start the game with nothing in your inventory, you're absolutely helpless. But look up there, that big old square in the corner. What is that, a cave? I want to check it out. Oh man, it's a sword. Thanks, old man. I'm not quite sure what you mean by it's dangerous to go alone, but whatever. I'm sure it's fine. I've got my trusty wooden sword and I'm now ready to adventure. Here's where things get a little interesting. Now that the sword is in your possession, the number of places to go is countless. Maybe you go find some goodies or go to the first dungeon. I mean, there's other places to go as well. I would say about 90% of the map you can access at this point. Hell, I mean, you can even do it without the sword. I'm not your dad, go do whatever you want. Get creative, that's what this game is about. Just don't get lost, I've heard that can be pretty easy to do from time to time. Although thanks to this game's presentation, the landmarks are pretty easy to distinguish, so you'll know where you are or need to be once you've explored enough. The presentation as a whole is pretty great. First off, this overworld theme is so iconic. I know people who don't even play video games that hum this tune. It really brings out that sense of adventure that this game tries to evoke. Once you hear that, you're ready to take on whatever comes your way. And for the time, even though the environments look samey, this really is one of the best looking NES games out there. Except for Link's eyebrows, I'm not really sure what's going on there. You can tell what item Link is using, where his sword swings are at, and what you're hitting. Some of these enemy designs may be a bit questionable, but at least they give off a sort of evil vibe so you know to hit them. It definitely laid the groundwork to come for the rest of the series in the best way, as well as gaming as a whole. This is one of the most influential games of all time for a reason. Anyway, going back to the last paragraph, this brings up a great talking point for this game. Notice how I said I know what I'm doing. Had I no idea what I was doing, I wouldn't have even known about the heart containers. Maybe you need to burn down the specific bush or bomb the specific part of the wall. Who knows? It doesn't tell you anywhere that walls can be blown up. This is what most people refer to as a guide game. I would be lying if I said I didn't use a guide almost exclusively for most of everything, just because I had no idea what I was doing and got lost easily. Hell, I couldn't even figure out where level 2 was until I looked up a guide for it. And my god, look at this. This is what I mean. The people who played this game to completion back in the day must have been insane. To be fair, this was the appeal of the game. It must have been such an awesome moment finding these secrets out of curiosity and then telling your friends about it, then they tell you something that they found. However, for me, in the modern day, it just comes off as tedious and unnecessary. Bombing every wall, burning every bush, pushing every rock and grave? No thanks. This bleeds into the dungeon design as well. You find these big landmarks that are just begging for you to come in and explore. Once you find one, there's a little bit of excitement and mystery surrounding it. What kind of treasures and monsters lie beyond? Only one way to find out. When you walk in, you start in the same room as all the others, surrounded by these dragon statues. This tune also plays in the background of every single dungeon save for the last one. It does a great job of setting the tone in these big labyrinths filled with traps and puzzles and old men. Thanks for the tip. I know not to go there now. Might get stabbed in an alley or worse. Anyway, the designs of these dungeons is bland to say the least. Every room has the same design with some tiles placed differently and each dungeon having a different color palette. To be fair, this was one of the first games of its kind, so they couldn't make them look that different. I guess the NES might not have been powerful enough for that or something. If it weren't for the map you see when you pause the game, I don't know if I would have been able to find my way around some of these dungeons. There's nothing to make them stand out except for the maps. Oh no. It's even worse when you realize that every dungeon has bombable walls, so you need to bomb in order to progress. Hope you find the bomb upgrades. Bet you didn't even know that they were in this game, huh? Each dungeon has a special item to help with progression. These items are super important to fighting the boss, sometimes. Dig Daughter Girl hates certain kinds of sound? Now that we're on the topic of bosses, they're a complete joke. They can all be killed with 1 or 2 hits, except for the dragon dude with 4 heads. Screw him. This did start the series staple of having bosses give you a heart container and marking the end of the dungeon. Look, the game is great. I love it, but only because I know what I'm doing. When I first played this, I had no idea what I was doing outside of going to Dungeon 1. I ran into Dungeon 3 and got my ass kicked, then I gave up and decided to come back later. I had no idea that you can get 3 heart containers, the blue ring, and the white sword all before even going to Dungeon 1. It's sick that you can, it gives a great sense of progression and it shows that you can play the game at your own pace, but what good is that when you don't have any idea that you can? I guess it adds some replayability so you can make each playthrough special and unique, kind of like another game I'll be talking about later. I like the fact you can do any dungeon in any order for the most part. It adds to the sense of a unique experience that only you will have. Biggest takeaway from this is to do your first playthrough with a guide. You can't look at me with a straight face and tell me you knew exactly what the hell grumble grumble meant as soon as you saw it. Also, don't play this game in a few sittings. It gets tiring real quick. You'll be getting what my friend Nathan calls dungeon fatigue. You'll get tired of going through the same areas all the time because of how repetitive the environments are. My favorite environment is the graveyard because of how different it looks, but you're in and out of there quicker than I can say Eastmost Peninsula is the secret. Man, is this game translated very poorly. Some of these hints are helpful, like the man who tells you to take the piece of paper to the old lady, but then there's some like the aforementioned grumble grumble and Eastmost Peninsula is the secret. Like, what the hell does a peninsula look like to you? Not seeing any here. Now that I've brought up terrible things in this game, how about that difficulty spike towards the last third of the way through the game? Now, this is what they mean by NES hard. People mostly remember Darknuts for being the most infamous enemy, but those Wizrobes can all go kiss my ass, to be honest. No matter which ring you have, they do massive amounts of damage. They have fire beams, and they can teleport anywhere in the room. Easily the worst enemy in the game. Darknuts ain't got nothing on Wizrobes, that's all I'm saying. Now that I'm talking about endgame stuff, I should probably talk about the actual endgame. So, spoilers, I guess. So at this point, you followed a guide through the 8 dungeons, gotten all the heart containers, and all 8 Triforce pieces along with every upgrade? Perfect, because you're gonna need all of it. I would highly suggest going back and getting all the optional crap because trust me, you will need all of it. Also, as one final precaution, buy the red potion. I don't care if you don't have the money for it, just go grind and do it. That potion is 2 full heals, so don't waste them. Now that you're ready, it's time to take on the final dungeon, Spectacle Rock. First off, just do this dungeon with a guide. You won't do it without one. Don't believe me? Here's what the map looks like. I'm sorry, but what the f***? This is just madness. I can't even right now. This is the one dungeon I cannot do without a guide, even to this day. This is that difficulty spike I was talking about. Every other room is littered with Wizrobes and like-likes. Pro tip, use the wand on the like-likes. Super effective. And don't forget the red ring and silver arrows, especially the latter. Without those, you can't kill Ganon. There's staircases that go to completely different areas, rooms that look exactly the same, and we can't forget about those bombable walls that you can't see. Easily the worst dungeon in the game, in my opinion. This is the one that I dread each playthrough. They added these new enemies that have a little swarm of bugs around them that you gotta kill first. They can also do massive amounts of damage. Something I forgot to mention is that in some dungeons you have to refight some bosses you fought before in random parts of the other dungeons. It's really stupid, but from what I've seen that isn't the case in Death Mountain. The one and only boss there is Ganon. Once you've found the silver arrows and the red ring, it's time to fight the Prince of Darkness himself. The battle this entire game is built up towards, and it's really easy and dumb. He turns invisible and teleports around the room, and you just have to swing wildly until you hit him. Hit him enough times and he'll turn red, then you just gotta pierce him with a silver arrow and that's it. Congratulations, you've just beaten Zelda 1. What an experience. A solid first entry that gets a little repetitive and has a huge, unforgiving difficulty spike right at the end. It's fun to explore, but you truly do need a guide for this one. Don't feel bad, we all used one. I think that even with its problems, it still stands above the rest as an instant classic. We're very spoiled with how handholdy Zelda games have become in recent years. The dungeon design can also be pretty samey and forgettable, but that map is such a game changer. If I were to give it a score, it'd be like an 8 out of 10, I guess, but that's not what this is about. Anyway, I hope to see you here next time when I tackle Zelda 2.